Hi, my name's Steven.
Hi, I'm April.
This is the 3 Pi Squared ABA Business Leaders podcast, where we discuss topics on how to create and grow an ethical and sustainable ABA practice.
Together, Steven and I owned a 7-figure ABA practice that provided both clinic and in-home services.
3 Pi Squared has helped over 900 ABA practices start up and expand with our comprehensive products and services geared specifically to ABA. Now, let's get to the podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to ABA Business Leaders podcast, brought to you by 3 Pi Squared. I'm April.
I'm Steven.
And guys, we have a part 2 for you today, or maybe it's a bonus. We don't know, but we get we get more time with the AByay team. Chris, the owner, Rebecca, RBT and HR, and Liz, HR. So we're just going to run right into it. We're just going to get right back into our conversation. Right. So we included with our ABA company, we included techs on our interview, like as part of the interview process. And then even at the end, like myself and the BCBAs would step out and just let the tech and the, person interviewing for the tech job have conversation. Right. And then we had like kind of an RBT roundtable where we had someone who was in a lead position, a peer lead position for the RBT roundtable to like facilitate a monthly meeting where they all, and this was kind of during COVID time, so it was virtual and stuff. And so, and the idea was to start doing more in person, as we were coming out of COVID, and we were not able to, we closed at that point. So we weren't able to see that through. So I love this conversation that you guys are doing that, because that's really was the next step that I wanted to do, is like having the, a tech position actually being able to be there in person, and having those conversations. Right. And so it's super exciting for me to hear how well that's going. So, okay. I'm going to, so let's circle back around to that line you will not cross. Is there? And of course it's going to depend on the person and who they're working with and the population of individuals that they're providing services for. I mean, there's a lot of that, but, is there a line in the sand where do you think that is, as far as, okay, if this thing happens, like, get out? Because one of the things that we talk about a lot is it's not just about the leaders and the owners of the company. It's not just the responsibility is not just on the leaders and owners of the company. The responsibility is also on every member of the company, including techs. And so if the idea is if we're all holding ourselves to a certain standard, right? And if you're a tech and you're going to your supervisor and the owner and all the people within your company that you're supposed to go to, and you're still not being heard and changes still aren't being made, I mean, it's a really difficult decision, but we typically would advise quit, because you essentially become part of the problem, right? And so that's kind of also where this is going too. So, is there a line in the sand of when it's time to move on? Yeah.
I know for me, in previous companies, there has been. For me, it was when the behaviors I was seeing from the management weren't keeping the clients in focus. That was kind of that misalignment between what I understood was the mission when I came in and signed on for a position, and my views, as well as like just that misalignment of what they're saying and what they're doing. That's usually my cue to look for something else. And if I've made that, I've had those conversations and nothing has changed. And for me, again, I look a lot to the ethical code that everyone has to abide by for those RBTs. And just overall, techs, just looking at really what what the expectations were that were laid out when I signed on for a position. I think it's really important to have job duties lists and all that stuff, and know what my expectations are going in. And when it starts misaligning, that's when I think that it's all right to say something. And then if it continues to misalign and just not meet with your values or even the values that the company had agreed upon you signing that job offer, then I think, oftentimes it is time to move on or look at maybe where you're at and where the field is at overall.
Yeah.
And like working like in home and community isn't for everyone. Like we recognize that. And I understand some people come from clinic and they will come into like our service model and they'll be like, maybe this isn't the place for me. Like, and that's okay. And we will sit down with them and we're very, like I said, that open dialogue is like critical in that moment. And I have told people time and time again that I respect that you took the time to reflect and know what you want for your own future. We're going to support your decision. Like, and I think that even shows them, like, even just staying within like the field itself. Maybe it's not like working in these types of environments, but they're still going to be working with children elsewhere. So it's one of those things where we want people to feel like they're valued in their positions. They know that they have a passion for it, but they just need to find their niche. And we're not going to scold someone for not wanting to work for us. We want them to, because I would say at the same time, people are applying for these positions. They're going into the fields and we all share that common mission, which is to support the growth, care, and future of children. Point blank. So wherever that may be, it's wherever that may be. And it's your future. Whatever awaits you, awaits you.
April and I are so honored to have Margin Keepers sponsor this podcast.
Running an ABA business comes with its share of challenges. Managing clients, staff, insurance, the list goes on.
One thing you shouldn't add to your stress, bookkeeping. That's where Margin Keepers comes in.
They're specialists in ABA businesses, which means they understand exactly what we need.
With Margin Keepers handling your finances, you can focus on what really matters, your clients, and your practice's growth.
They're more than just bookkeepers. They're lifesavers in the financial world of ABA.
So for peace of mind and expert financial management,
turn to Margin Keepers. It's a decision that will lift a weight off of your shoulders.
Check out Margin Keepers at www.marginkeepers.com and see how they can help your business thrive.
Let's talk about techs in the field, right? Let's continue that conversation about techs. What do you think that techs want in this field? You know, we hear, all the stories about, I'm just a warm body. I'm just a billable hour. And we really seem to be losing some of the most passionate people in the field. And, how can we support and take care of them? Like, what do techs need? And I know too, like, if there are any stories that you have to share, because I know when we were interviewing techs for our company, we were like appalled at some of the situations that they were in or had been in. And they came to us really guarded and really having a hard time trusting to know, I don't know. Can we believe what you're saying here? Or are you going to be just like these other people that we worked with? So yeah, let's chat about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I came in that way into ABA, so I can completely understand. Just very much feeling like a warm body, and that like any of the talent I did have was used up by covering for techs who weren't passionate. It's definitely something that I think all techs do run into, especially when you're at a company where they are just putting someone there to cover whatever's happening, like having a person in the room. It's very disheartening, and I think it doesn't feel encouraging at all to do well at your job. And so something I always looked for was someone that did advocate for their kiddos, because I'm like, if they're passionate about serving their clients, part of that is being passionate about your techs and supporting them. I think they kind of go hand in hand. So being able to kind of see like the passion overall in a BCBA, but for techs, I think it can be hard. It's really hard to know what until you're in there with that is going, that like mission statement of the company is upheld. I think it can be hard to navigate too, of like where to go if it's not. Something that I think we do a great job of is like making sure we have that rapport. It can be hard with a bigger company. You're not going to know every single tech. It's different for sure. But even being able to have that like one thing that you guys can connect on. And something I've started doing too is like collecting preferences during those check-ins to see like what's motivating to them, how they like to get feedback. So it just shows that you're taking them into account when thinking about furthering their experience or their training and things like that.
And piggybacking again off of what Rebecca noted, because I was doing all the interviews before she jumped on with us a year ago, but I can remember some hot topics of people who would come in to interview with us, and we would ask them, I see you've been with this company for X amount of time. Why are you looking to change? And it opens the floodgates very easily. And Rebecca, you can interject too, but a lot of the topics that I would hear is the lack of communication, which of course, here we are talking about how much we are so fluid with communication. It's hard for us to kind of understand. And there was just the people were getting burnt out because their teams were not communicating effectively as well as timely with them. And because of the model of services, I remember there was a young lady, she's like, I just got in the middle of the interview, they just changed my long-term client. Like, and I don't know where I'm going tomorrow. I don't know who I'm working with. I have nothing. And I'm like, well,
that's stressful.
And you could see the look on her face with how stressed she was in that moment. And and she's like, all they did was tell me a name, and that's all I have. And it's 5:00 at night. And I'm like, well, yes, that can be frustrating. Like you're trying to do work effectively.
Right. Well, exactly. Like we're talking like show up with like some items that knowing that this is going to be hard for the learner too, to meet a new person. What can I come with? What can I come with to help this transition? Yeah.
And
yeah, absolutely. That's something I definitely hear a lot in our interviews, that just like the lack of consistency for not only the clients, but then the techs themselves. Like it's hard to sub every day and like learn a different client every day. So taking that into account, and also just like collaboration for our techs. I know that's super important. I like it. A behavior plan is great when it works. And the BCBA isn't often the person that's utilizing the plan and putting it into place. So having that collaboration of like what's working, what's going to work for you, what like even that tech's strengths and weaknesses are when it comes to treatment, keeping all of that in mind is really what's going to serve our clients, our techs, and just overall progress best.
And I think while we strive for collaboration, we hear a lot of tension out there at other companies between the tech and their supervisor. And there's a lot of what we pride ourselves on is that we want that collaboration, because our techs are working, like as we mentioned, full time in the house. They know that client better than anyone. And from what we've been hearing during like the interviewing process, and even what people bring up to us, even like when they're with us, is that like their previous company, it was like the BCBA's way or the highway. And that's difficult, because then they're kind of at a crossroad of like, well, I know the treatment needs to be changed because it's not effective, it's not working, but they're going off of an hour with the client, like with a telehealth session or something. So and then they're just like, well, I can't tell them my own feedback because they're not going to take it and run with it. So it's frustrating to hear in those moments, and we're sorry that's occurring out there. But I think it also provides, when we talk about it during interviews, we're also giving people like our perspective of how we run in our operations. And granted, maybe it's a place for them or not to be with us, but we're also showing them too, like the value of what an ABA company stands for and what services really mean, like worldly view of it and scope of it is like, oh, it is collaboration. It is teamwork. I don't have that here. I'm still going to interview to find my place. And this ABA interview has opened my eyes to what I am missing out on.
Yeah, I know when I go through everything, I even say that, I'm trying to be as transparent with what our model looks like as possible. So you can make that decision if like that independent, service is for you. Or, if a clinic's your place, a clinic's your place. I get it. So just trying to be as transparent with our model so that everyone understands, again, that expectation, and that they know what they're getting into and also what to expect on their end. So when they're not getting it, they know when to speak up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's also very important. So I would love to talk more about how you do that though, right? So like, yeah, communication, collaboration, like, yes, we all like, yeah. And I get you. I hear you. I know, like, yes, that's why you guys are here. That's why we're having this conversation. But how? Like, how do you do that? How do you have, like, what do you have built in? Like, give me some concrete examples, or, like, is it a fact that you have like such a robust like HR team? Like, I don't know how do you do it?
I can tell you from the BCBA side, we have a lot of BCBAs who started as techs and went through our ABA student program. And we've tried to give them as many tools and on-the-job training as possible. But they're still young and they're still learning. And we do 2 monthly meetings with our BCBAs. And one is just clinical group and the other one is a skills group. And 95% of the times we're hitting soft skills in that group. So that some of the examples that we just gave, even if we're giving a direction as a BCBA, there's different ways to give that direction versus you need to do it this way, or, we need to start implementing this goal. And how do you think it's best that we implement that goal and have a back and forth so that they're more agreeable to it? Because they're the ones the tech's the one that has to implement it. Or even if they have a suggestion and we can't implement it, and instead of just saying, no, that's not the way we do things, and shutting them down and closing that communication, trying to talk with them and let them know like why that's not an option, and like, thank you for bringing forward that idea. Maybe that's something that we can work on in the future. But working with our BCBAs on soft skills has been a challenge, and also has been super helpful in that area.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of how I would say it too. Like for us, like those BCBAs really having that close relationship with our techs, because they're the first line of like, if something's wrong, that's who you go to. So being able to make sure that they feel comfortable going to their BCBA, they're able to have those like rapport building skills, which sometimes I grab from my preference assessments during my check-ins for the techs. Just giving them even those little, like you do with a client, like, hey, when I'm going to go sub, I need to know what's going to get them to like me. What is a motivator and what's an aversive? Like the do's and do nots. They kind of same with a tech. Like know what they are motivated by. You guys can have like, oh, like I know that you as a BCBA used to do ballet, and this tech used to be like a cheerleader. Maybe you can connect on that type of item. Or you're both noted that you love like Nerds blue gummy clusters. Like connect on that. Like just being able to build that like regular rapport, like you do with any other person, or especially our clients, is just as important with the tech as well. And yeah, having that collaboration. I know a lot of our techs are just like, well, bring up things and just get shut down. The why is super important. I know I am always been a curious person. I want to know the why of like why I'm being told no or anything like that. So I think that anyone is the same. They want to know why we are implementing something, why we're not. So just having that open and honest conversation and not just shutting down someone of, it can be a little demeaning. It can be a little make a tech feel like they're less than. So not seeing them as someone like, oh, you don't have the master's education. Like it can be a little, it can be tough when you might have really great ideas and you just feel like they're going to be shut down. So even if you just tell me why, I always appreciate that as a tech. And just that transparency is the biggest thing.
Absolutely. Well, so how do you guys support your staff for retention? Because I know that's another thing that your retention rate is pretty high among techs. And so, and what role does HR play in that?
I think it honestly goes hand in hand with that, just like those regular check-ins, making sure you're recognizing your staff when something awesome happens. Like, the birthdays, anniversaries, graduations from things, even just anything, like being really in tune and in touch with those techs and having like a little bit of that more personal relationship and just kind of keeping tabs on where they're at. If their son is graduating high school, like making sure you're congratulating them, or like we had a tech who was a veteran, and so I made sure on Veterans Day to send an email over. Just like those little things showing that like they're on your mind. And I always think about things I would appreciate as a tech, and that's what I try to do. Just little stuff like that, I think really goes a long way of showing that like, hey, you're valuable and we appreciate you being here. I know all my techs, almost, I think every single one says that their biggest motivator is just being told that they're doing something correctly, not even being given praise, just literally affirmation. And I think that goes a long way too. Like, hey, you're like doing it right. Like, in hand with that feedback too. Just like I do with clients, like you want to make sure you're saying just more good things than bad. And I think it should be the same with techs too. You want to give them all the things they're doing well, even if it is just saying like, hey, I love how you like varied your language when you were providing that like praise reinforcement. Anything like, I don't know, overpraising, I don't think is a thing. So I think just keeping that and keeping it personal every night.
Right. As long as it's genuine and that's absolutely.
I love it, Rebecca. Liz, you gave an example earlier of someone who was told at 5:00 at night that they were the client they'd been working with at another agency, a client that they'd been working with, they'll no longer be working with. You want to like contrast that with like the thought that we put into trying to match staff with clients and when we need to make a change, like how we approach that. You want to like kind of give an example of like the contrast?
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah. So what we do is when we're bringing in a client, we get kind of like the nuts and bolts of the needs for the little one. And what we do when we go into the interviewing process is we look for the skill sets that are necessary to support that little one. So like, for instance, we're asking them, like, what's their preference? Like, who do they, like, what ages do they like working with? What level of care? Do they have a background with working with like behaviors? What type of behaviors? Are they comfortable implementing X, Y, and Z? And then once we are kind of going through the motions, what we're doing then is we're collaborating with the BCBA as well on the candidate that we're looking to hire for to ensure that it's going to be a well-rounded, good fit. Because we want everybody to feel comfortable through and through when we're getting services started, as well as we want to ensure that we're able, like we have the open availabilities. They are able to be like accountable and reliable in attending sessions, because we do mention how critical it is for them to maintain the value and consistency of care. And we're very transparent in the interviewing process with that. And especially with like our service model, we want people to understand that we're going out in the community. Things may change. We don't run like a school. In addition to that, once we're finally getting them in, we're already starting to give them ideas of what that case is going to look like, really setting the grounds. I know recently we hired someone, I'm pinging on this in time. So the BCBA who ran her orientation was going to be her BCBA on the case. And then they spent, I think, at least 40 minutes after orientation going over everything about this little one. And the next day, the RBT went in there and she had Minnie Mouse everything. Like she went running. And the moment she walked in the door, she already built rapport and she's on the ground with Minnie Mouse sunglasses on her face. And right then and there, she started services within minutes on her first official day. So we're trying to do as much as we can in those moments to make sure that they're feeling supported right from the moment they are interviewing with us to the moment they meet their client. And especially too, like say we're in those situations where the client cancels and we're needing to send them elsewhere to oversee a case. Because of course, if they're available, we want to send them to a little one who needs us for the day. And Rebecca usually oversees this too, but we provide them with very prompt updates and keeping them up to date, as well as their own supervisor, as well as the supervisor they're going to be substituting with or something, or shadowing with. And we're giving them all the information up front. We're telling them about where data sheets are, where the treatment plan can be found, connecting with the BCBA before you walk in the next day to get a feel for what the needs are for the case. Like say there's something going on extinction at that moment in time. They need to know about it before they walk in the door. Because the last thing we want them to do is to walk into that sub case and they're already burnt out because they have no idea what's going on. And because they're new to that case, well, we don't want to start off sour. And we on the HR team too, we're really having our toes and fingers in that collaboration where it's like we understand the BCBAs are extremely busy. They're overseeing their own cases and we're the ones who are going to be assisting them and getting sure they have all those tools before they're walking into that service. And we're there to support them when they're out at those sessions.
And if we're swapping cases, that's something that we're talking about normally for a while, for like a couple of weeks in admin, sketching out plans, making sure it's going to be a good fit. And that's not an email at 5:00 with a name. Like that's a meeting.
Yeah. I do.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sorry, Rebecca.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is like ideal, right? I can just imagine a tech saying, oh, like this would make all the difference in the world. Or a BCBA, like all the members of your team, because they're going to feel valued. They're going to feel like they matter. They're going to get the information they need to be able to show up. Like if you find out on 5:00 the night before that something's changing tomorrow, you don't even know what's changing. And then you show up to work and you don't know what to expect. And like, you're not going to be able to provide quality services. I don't care how great of a tech or a BCBA you are. But if you have even a little bit of heads up and communication, which you guys are giving way more than a little bit, then you can show up with the Minnie Mouse glasses and like have optimum like quality. That's super quality. But how are you guys able to do that? Is it due to the amount of leadership that you guys have and the size of your HR department? What is your secret of how you're able to give this level of communication and support within the team? And I think this will be our last question for today. We'll kind of end on this note, kind of giving that, giving some tips of how are you different? How are you able to provide this?
Yeah, on the tech end, I know what really helps is that ability to collaborate, like we kind of said before, and just have that voice heard and keeping everyone informed about why the decisions are made. And yeah, that communication as soon as you know it. Like even for me, we had a tech who came back the other day, and it was like 4:30, and she sent us an email of like, hey, I'll be available tomorrow. And I was like, oh, okay. And even in then I emailed and I was like, okay, I will get something together and let you know as soon as I have that. Like even just responding to that and letting her know that I'm working on solidifying something, and that like, or same with like, we have some techs who we try to get shadowing opportunities if we don't have a sub need, and we want to get them some more opportunities to see some things like that. We will send out some shadowing stuff, but also note at the bottom, like, hey, if a sub comes in overnight, that's maybe where we could pivot you, as that is a higher priority need. Just really being upfront with, again, expectation. Like, hey, this is what could happen. Here's the plan. Here's what like we're planning to do and how we're going to support you. And then, yeah, again, having those check-ins of like, what could we have done better? And also just say like, being able to admit when you didn't do something perfectly,
Yes.
and have that conversation of like, what could be better next time. Yeah, that's I think super important.
I think there's a lot that goes into that. And for one thing, we know our worth, and we don't accept funding sources that are too low for us to provide high quality services.
Can you say that again? Can you repeat that again?
Yeah.
We know our worth. Our mission is to provide the highest quality services that we can. I've worked way too many places where I felt like I was giving it 110%, but my kids weren't getting anywhere, because we were just doing everything. No one was set up to be successful. So like I was spinning my wheels, and I had a case where, staff was turning over every 2 months, and it was like fresh start, and we just weren't getting any, weren't meeting treatment plan goals. So like we want to get kids, like Rebecca's case, like that was like what, 2 years? That kid went from nonverbal to out of services.
It was like September to like June of the following, 2 years.
That's what we want. We want to get in, make a major change in that child's life, give them the skills that they need to be successful independently, get out and do that with the next kid, and not work with the same 10 kids for 10 years where they make hardly no progress. And in order to do that, it's not cheap. Mm-hmm. And if we're taking funding sources that are limiting us to 3 hours of assessment, and we need a lot more than that because we've got 60-page treatment plans. You can't do assessment in 3 hours. And to say that they only have 3 hours, they're not going to write a quality treatment plan. So when you keep your eye on the mission and on quality, then everyone wants to go above and beyond because they know it's for the kids, and we've been effective in having great outcomes for our kids. So they know that and they see that. So if Rebecca or Liz gets an email at 6:00 at night, even though they're done for the day, they're motivated to respond to that email and help that staff out because they know it's about the kids, and they know that in order to support our kids, we need to support our staff. Also, even though we have 3 staff in our HR department, there's, from the owner side, there's a role in that where if they're able to effectively have an impact and have higher retention, that's less money that we're spending interviewing and onboarding staff. That goes towards our utilization if we don't have constant holes in our schedule, which increases our budget that we have to better support our staff as well.
Preach, Chris.
I think like when I did the math, it's about $7,000 is what you're going to lose when you lose a tech. So what can you do with that $7,000, right?
Train your tech, the poor ear tech.
Support your tech. It doesn't, what you're doing is amazing, but at the same time, it doesn't seem like it's all that right. It's like, treat a person like a human and they may stay a little bit longer. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't seem like we're asking too much, but it seems really hard for a lot of ABA companies to handle that. So I thank you for your time and for sharing what you do. And I think it's good for other ABA business owners to know that it is possible to do this the right way, and it's a nice reminder that this is about the kids. We're working with humans. We want to treat them with respect, everybody with respect. I think it's a great message.
That's well said, Stephen. Well said.
Now, I didn't talk much throughout this podcast, so thank you for the heavy lifting this time. But
I appreciate that. Yeah. So, okay, everyone, this conversation is not over. Okay, we are going to continue these conversations here on this podcast in our social media platforms. But I also would love for you guys to continue these conversations on your own, in your own community, within your own business. Reach out to that other ABA provider down the street or across town. I don't care if you think I don't know what your opinion of them is, right? You don't know until you talk to them. Yeah. Give them a chance. And we don't have some super secret that we have to keep from each other. Yeah. Let's have these conversations because ABA agencies like Chris's, we've talked to quite a few of them across the nation. And so they're out there. And like Stephen said, as you guys are doing an amazing job. And I love to hear about all the success and the quality that you're providing. But we won't know this about other providers unless we have these conversations. Correct. Right? Yeah. So reach out, ask, invite another ABA owner in your area for coffee, or reach out to another BCBA that works for another agency, not to poach them, but just to ask questions and chit chat and see what's working, what's not working. How can I help you? Yeah. Right.
And if you do feel stuck, especially text, but ABA Ethics Hotline is a great place to go. Just shoot them an email and just say, hey, I don't feel like I'm getting the right response from my team, but I want to run this by somebody. Obviously, don't send any PHI, but that is a place you can go, and they respond relatively quickly. And I think that like if you're feeling alone, if you're feeling stuck, don't just stay there. Reach out and see if you can get some help.
Yeah, and we're here too. Here too. So reach out to us if there's anything that we can do to help support. But thank you, a million thank yous to Chris and Rebecca and Liz, and I have a feeling you're going to see them again here for another podcast in the future. But I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and thank you for spending your busy schedule, your time with us, and see you next time.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. Hopefully it was helpful. If you would like to gain access to this entire video, and actually our entire library of videos, please join our ABA Business Leaders membership. You can find that at www.3pisquare.com.